What is it, my cutouts cardboard ninja coming at you late with the rundown update to cross out. It's going to have a new rundown event, which is of course not really an event. It's just a new pay them money for items that you're going to require to craft thing, as we all know, which comes back with the return of the Big Black Scorpions Brawl. Very, very useful. You have 3 days as of the time I'm creating this video. Yes, I'm aware it's late. Shut up. To actually play it, Big Black Scorpions is one of the few brawls that actually has achievements linked in the game. And until this game mode is actually out, you can't actually progress those achievements. So if you're an achievement hunter, get to it. Taming the Dragon temporary raid. It's going to be a raid that, if I recall correctly, that you have 4 survivors. Everything just keeps flooding at you in waves, and if you die, you lose time, and if you lose enough time, you get nothing. Impulsiveness Brawl on the horizon. This is the thing I was telling you about in one of my previous videos, where the spike is unbelievably valuable, specifically and only in this game mode, where impulse is cranked up to the max, something like 400% or 1000%, where you can basically one-hit anyone with the spike, and this includes whether or not they're using a damage shield. So if they use the Nova, if they use the Aegis, you shoot the Nova or Aegis, the impulse still goes into their vehicle, which will then explode their car because it'll accelerate them to the game's top speed, and then they'll connect with the ground and they will explode. Wheel of Fortune, the fun-ass brawl where you drive around on those little fortune cars. Basically, they're just cars. You have the side boosters, boost left and right, so you can strafe, and you've got fortunes, and you just basically kill other people, and your car is covered in explosives. At gunpoint, you get your pre-built vehicles as per standard, but you have to be basically right behind the guns and your view mode, so you can't actually see what's happening behind you to the sides, and you can't see anything that is going on other than what is in front of your gun. So, moving on, we have the new Devour minigun. We covered this earlier. It has some things that are written down interesting and blah, blah, blah. Very long story short, it shoots 48 projectiles in a time. This thing operates very similar to the Kaiju. So if you imagine the Kaiju, and you're like, I've used and played the Kaiju, that's actually the Devour. Yes, there's no charge up that you have to hold down the left mouse button for, but there's a charge up. It spools up very rapidly, thankfully, and then it fires 48 shots in a row. The damage is 1/2 of that of the Kaiju, actually. I believe this does like 27 something per shot. The Kaiju does like 42. So 2 of these are actually the equivalent of a singular Kaiju firing, but you don't fire 11 or so projectiles, you fire 48. So the damage on this is actually really, really good in that regard. However, a couple things. The Devourer's first burst actually does more damage per shot than the second burst. Second burst, as everyone knows, is interlaced with special shots, and those special shots do common, which is to say the same as a normal. So when the gun turns sideways, it will interlace standard shots from the primary gun and special shots from the secondary barrel. So it'll do common, cooling, which is to say ice, and armor-piercing explosive projectiles. And yeah, they say that the piercing goes 4 pins, which is 1 pin greater than the Reaper. So if we mosey on over to the game, ignore that pop-up, you'll see 2 things. The way that this the perk is actually written is wrong, but the first burst, sorry, does 1344 on this build, and the second unfortunately that's not clean, but it does a combined total of about 1,100 and something that when I actually tested it before. So you actually do more damage on the first than the second. So if you're using perks that boost damage and you actually want to burn through someone's build or strip their guns, you actually want to do that with the first burst and not the second burst. Second thing, even though it is written, hold on, even though the Devourer has the perk written that says if 30 projectiles from the burst hit an enemy, that is not accurate. This literally works more similarly to that of the Punisher and that of the, where's that grenade launcher? the GL55. Basically, every time you hit, it counts on that track. Once you get 30 hits, then the perk activates. It does not have to be on the first burst. It just has to be with the first mode. That's it. So as long as it's on the first mode, you fire down range, you miss like all the shots except for 3, well, now you only need to land 27. It'll reload, you fire again. Let's say you don't hit 27 more shots. Let's say you only hit 22 more shots. Well, then you need to hit 5 more shots. And then after you land 5 more shots, then the perk will activate. So that is actually to your benefit, misreading of, or, mistranslation of the perk. So there you go. Let's go back to ye old patch notes. And by the way, this is one of the most expensive, if not the most expensive energy draining weapon in the game at 13, more than any other relic. Though this most likely means that they're considering nerfing other relics to 13. Who knows? It's extraordinarily heavy at 1,500 kilograms. And of course, it's extraordinarily durable at 1,076. I think it's more durable than the Typhoon. Balance changes, armor slab, nerf. This is very important. Basically, they said the side with the hole on the reinforced half of the part with resistances now has no resistances. What does that mean? Well, a lot, actually. So let's mosey on over to any build. Doesn't really matter. Symbol this. What they're saying is, if you look at the armored slab states the reinforced area of the part has increased damage resistance while the rest has no resistance, blah, 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 blah. So the rest is these 3, right? And if you look at it from this side, these 3 pins, right? Right? So it's 1/2 and 1/2, right? Wrong. See, here's the thing. Everybody mounts these the exact same way, including even on this build. I haven't even bothered to update it. This is no longer armored. These 2 pins are not armored. So what does that mean? Well, it means exactly that. Anybody who's pretty wise and knows where I'm going with this already knows where I'm going with this. So you don't need a visual aid to understand what's going on. But I am making a video. This is a visual medium. So as you know, if you shoot the top half of this, it takes barely any damage. It took 70 or so. And it did not get shot off by the Scorpion. Do it again just so people can see it. Did 33. Sorry, I must have overpinned and struck the thing behind it. But the overall idea is it can take a Scorp shot directly to the armored portion. But what happens if you, I don't know, shoot the non-armored portion? Let's assume you shoot down low. What happens then? Comes flying off. Well, unarmored are now these 2 pins. So, similarly, if not exactly the same as what you just saw, striking on the front removes it instantaneously. No armor. So if you go to the exhibition and you look for anybody rocking Scorpions or Typhoons or Tsunamis or any of these builds, of which you'll see, all of them use this as a center point. Those are useless. This is unarmored. This will get slapped off your build. Remember, each of these things, armored slabs, gives you 90-something health. Yeah, 93 vehicle durability. So you can no longer afford to mount them like this because if they get shot off, you lose 93 durability in exchange for 49 damage, which sucks because it sucks, especially considering like in this build, it's not as though I was abusing this, but these are side plates that were protecting things. So now when people shoot at me from directly behind, they'll shoot through this, and then this will come flying off immediately instead of it being actually protected. So that's a nerf to the armored slab. Unfortunate. I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware of that because that is a huge nerf to a lot of weapons. The rotation speed came in. I'm not going to go over this because I've gone over it in previous one's, but basically they're like, no, everyone's using the oppressor. The oppressor is too good, so we're going to leave the oppressor alone for some reason and then buff everything else. Now you no longer need the oppressor, right? Yeah, no. Everyone's going to still use the oppressor. It's just going to be even better. I mean, there's no reason to not do that. And they're like, they also are going to pre-nerf the fin whale because of that. They're like, oh, people are going to swap to the fin whale. No, I'm pretty sure they're going to stay with the oppressor. Buggy Wheel, Bigfoot, and Sabbath, these are nerfed. They no longer work in conjunction with, well, each other. Because the Bigfoot wheels are now no longer, how do I put this? They no longer play fair. they're considered size plus or whatever the fuck now, and so any wheel that doesn't touch the ground with wheel builds doesn't count. And so what that means is if you have a fun build or a build that you've enjoyed, it's no longer functional, and also means that if you ever built a Leviathan ever, which would be everyone, now you need to go purchase a fuckload of Bigfoots because nothing else works with it. Huge nerf to the Sabbath, huge nerf to the buggy wheel. It's unfortunate. It just is what it is. Oh, and by the way, this is also inclusive of a nerf to the percentage that the perks themselves contribute. So the idea was if you had 2 Bigfoots and 2 buggy wheels, you get 1/2 of the Bigfoot perk, 1/2 of the buggy wheel perk. They've changed that. Now the percentages are significantly lower. In this, it would be 35% for each. 35% of its maximum for each. The Bigfoot, Sleipnir, Tank Track, Meat Grinder, I'm sorry, my apologies. All of those things that I just said were applicable to those that lift you off the ground. So even though you can technically have a Bigfoot Sabbath build now, it damn well better lean. If that build don't lean, you're not going to get that Sabbath perk, baby. You're fucked. So, for example, you can still have a build that is Bigfoot Sabbath. You can't have one that's Bigfoot Buggy Wheel, but it has to be sloped. If it's not sloped, you get none of the bonus, which, of course, many of those didn't, because Bigfoot wheels are actually quite excellent. So there you go. The Young Wing, Fortune, and Porcupine nerf, they didn't bring in the changes. The changes, as you don't know about, were that they were going to remove momentum of the vehicle from affecting the projectile. They undid that. They're like, now we want to test that shit first. Cabins, nerfed. Bonus speed change from plus 3 kilometers an hour to 3%. Tempura, nerfed. Apparently there was this, we had a stream, and we were comparing length versus girth. Tempura versus the Tachi. And apparently they nerfed the Tempura, not the Tachi. What? What in the... What? This is where if I actually like put more effort into these videos, this is where you'd have that smash cut to the guy going, what the fuck? That's what I would do here. That's insane. The Tempura is a good gun, but... holy shit, cutting 24% of its distance. The thing only had 4 pins, if I recall correctly, 4 or 3 pins. So now it has 3 or 3.5 pins of actual reach. And 30% damage nerf. Just so we're clear, that is a massive damage nerf, and the only reason why they're doing this to Tempura is because they gave away fused Tempura, and the fused Tempura increases activation time. Activation time of 10% or 5% or whatever equated to 1 full additional tick of damage, which made the Tempura able to do 600 plus damage each, which made them extraordinarily strong. So massive, massive, massive nerf to the Tempura. They're trying to put it into the earth. Hulk and Fat Man now do percentage instead of flat, and this is because people are having too much fun. Spike, now it's other spikes are getting 25%. Additional impulse. They mentioned that this, by the way, used to be listed as 35%. They dropped it down 25%. Doesn't really matter. All that matters is they're making it so spikes actually have a perk. And they mentioned, by the way, nobody even notices this perk without this because it doesn't do anything. It's true. Spike has no perk right prior to this patch. Everyone knows it. If you strike any build that's remotely large in any aspect, then it does nothing. All it does is damage, and it has no perk. And that's the overwhelming vast majority of builds in Crossout. Even quad spike builds didn't push very far. So now it's up to 75% bonus on all of your spikes because of the fact that you can get 25%, you can mount up to 4. Yang Wang, previously the perk increased damage per energy point, now it also depends on the type of module. Basically, they're continuously nerfing the Yang Wang. They're like, look, the Yang Wang was too good, we're just cock slapping it, just slap, 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 slap. They're just slapping the dick off of the Yang Wang. No more, oh wait, dang it, I feel like I was teed up for a Wang joke, and I just dropped the ball. I dropped the ball. Continuing forward, Quantum buff 5%. Why? Because the Quantum sucks. To be quite honest, even though it was the original Epic Medium Cabin, people keep corrupting me and saying it wasn't the first Epic Cabin. I know Epic Medium Cabin, the Quantum was the first. The issue is that its perk is far too niche and it's too easy to shut down. Like, quite simply, if you take any damage anywhere on your build, your perk turns off. So if only people in like Crossout sprayed, shots wildly downrange, which could randomly turn off your perk. Right, which is a thing. But we'll see. This is probably edging towards too powerful, to be honest. Caucus, nerfed. Again, this is the 5th Caucus nerf in a row. People started using it in aircraft mode, and what they decided to do was turn off the ability for the Caucus to aim up. That wasn't enough, so now they're changing the dependence on spread. Why? Because they hate this gun, and the devs should remove it from the game. If you heard laughter in the background, that would be my fiance just doing stuff. Ignore that. So one of the things that they needed to do a while ago was stop doing what they're doing. What they're doing is they keep giving away fused weapons, and then they immediately nerf that fused weapon down to the pre-fused stats. And they just keep doing that over and over again. So we've got the Bigfoot ST and the Bigfoot... Actually, no, it's just the Bigfoot ST is increasing its tonnage by 250. I'm surprised they're not doing that also for the Bigfoot. Weird, but this is because of the fact that you're going to need a lot more of these because you can no longer mix and match Bigfoots in most circumstances. Gravistar, huge nerf. The Gravistar, even though it was considered a shotgun by many and operates like a shotgun by all, it was never a shotgun. It was considered an energy weapon. So in reality, if you wanted to make a shotgun Leviathan, you could use the Gravistars combined with, well, you know, shotguns, standard shotguns, and you could run in, make a close range build levy, and just run in and blast people apart. But the problem is that that was too good, so they nerfed it. They added it to the shotgun category, at least with the radiators. So now, burped. So now you get significantly less shots when attached with a radiator. This is a nerf, even though it doesn't seem like it, but it's a buff, even though it doesn't seem like it. I don't know if this is a net neutral. This is simply because of the way the Gravistar perk works. It needs to overheat in order to fire, but you really don't want to just run Gravistars without a radiator. So this is a hit or miss. It might be a buff nerf or it might be neutral. But seeing as they are indicating that they think this efficiency is too high, that implies that this is a nerf. So this probably maths out to it to net nerf. STM26 Tackler. Energy consumption reduced from 6 to 5, power score reduced from 810 to 675, and damage reduced by 19%. This is a very funny thing. Somebody mentioned this in the comments the last time I did this, and I didn't, because they had these patch notes in advance, and I didn't catch this. I noticed it and I laughed. I replied back to them. This is a huge nerf. This is a ridiculous nerf. Do you know why this is a ridiculous nerf? Because if you had 4 tacklers before, 4 tacklers, and that would take, what, 4, 8, 12, 16 energy, you now need 5 tacklers to do the same damage. A 20% damage decrease is 1/5 of your damage. So you need 6. If you have a 4 tackler build, it will do a 4 tackler build prior to this change will do the exact same damage as a 5 tackler build after this change. It is a colossal nerf. They hate this gun. The tackler already was shit. If you looked at its price on the market, it was already in the shitter. We just checked to see if it went back down. Yeah, it's still in the shit. Like, people saw the changes and they were like, oh, it's gonna make this thing worth more, right? And then people tried to sell by it and they're like, yeah, here we go. And then people did math. They were like, oh yeah, math. Math says this thing is dog shit. That's even worse. Like, it is now worse than it has ever been. This weapon, the tackler right now, is in its absolute worst state ever. This is ridiculous. Like, it's very bad. I have 4 in storage, and I got screwed. Look at this. I bought them at 206. I've been waiting for them to go up to a high enough value to sell them. They never even broke 206 before people realized that this got even worse, and it's plummeting straight back down into the ground because it is just the worst. Unfortunate. I don't know why they hate the tackler, but whatever. They're saying low popularity of this machine gun. What the fuck does it? That's good. But oh Jesus. Oh my God. This is the stupidest thing they have ever said. They're like, the reason why we are nerfing the ST M26 tackler, the reason why we're applying this nerf to this weapon is because no one uses it. It's too unpopular. All those other nerfs that we gave it, people stopped using it. But this nerf right here, this will bring them back. Snowfall, energy consumption reduced, and power score reduced. This is actually just a pure buff. This is just a buff. Straight up better gun. Doesn't include damage nerf. So this is actually straight up buff. Noul, increase in spread after a shot, reduced from 2 to 1 degrees. As mentioned before, the Noul is the 3-shot autocannon that has to reload afterwards, and trying to burst fire or tap fire this gun is impossible. It doesn't matter that the gun goes to the next barrel so quickly. If it doesn't even matter the distance. Prior to this change, the Noul was completely unusable in multi-tap mode. So there is that. Let's go here. Let's go to the exhibition. Let's grab a Noul. Let's see if that still remains the case. I have a feeling that it may or may not remain the case. I have a feeling that it's probably still going to suck. It's just probably going to suck a whole lot less. So before, you would not be able to do this. Okay. That's actually, wow, that's actually a lot better. You might actually be able to 2-tap things. Okay. Only your third shot is useless. That's good. That's a massive buff. That's actually a massive buff to the Noul. Wow. Okay. Cool. Continuing on. Omnibox. The perk increases speed by 15% instead of 10% and power by 25% instead of 20%. So in other words, you have a higher top speed but less power, and it speeds up the cooldown and reloading by 20% instead of 15%. They say the cabin lacks efficiency. This is actually a great buff to the Omnibox, but a buff to base stats would have been better. But that's fine. Step Spider. The perk no longer reduces rocket damage, but the projectile speed and accuracy is reduced from plus 50% to plus 35%. Doesn't even matter. This doesn't matter. Believe it or not, like just like it, I can't with this cabin. Step Spider is or was a walker cabin specifically before to buff the movement speed of walker legs, and then they decided that they wanted to make it a rocket cabin, but instead they wanted it to nerf damage by 25%, and they changed that, 20%, and they changed it to like 15%. Doesn't matter. None of those things fucking matter. Like, it was nobody would have ever used this cabin. That is a bad decision. A very bad decision. Basically, the Step Spider was dead. Straight up dead when they made it reduce rocket damage. It was the equivalent of missing one shot every volley with crickets if you hit all shots. That's not worth it. And so now, who cares? I mean, honestly, the difference between 50 and 35% is highly irrelevant. But the fact that it no longer nerfs your damage, Step Spider is now actually contender for a rocket build. Is it still not the best? I would argue Catalina still outperforms it, but and so does the Harpy. Harpy Catalina probably outperform the Step Spider just because the fact they're both light cabins, so it gives you the responsiveness. In addition to that, it is a It is an epic cabin, medium, which got nerfed in the 2 patches ago or so when they did the stupid energy change, making it so all energy is doubled. The Step Spider got nerfed because it gives 1 less energy, and the light cabins don't give 1 less; they give the full doubling of the previous energies. So what that means is you actually have to now, because I actually have a build, it's called Flex, people are downloading, it's great, whatever. It requires a big G in order to, you require a generator now. So I would still think that the light cabins are a better choice when it comes to, let's say, hover crickets or hover rockets. The Arathon. Projectile damage increased by 10%. Projectile impulse increased by 20%. Pellet damage increased by 10%. Pellet spread reduced by 10%. Arathon is the worst shotgun in the game. It is the one that fires Roadhog's right mouse button right in from Overwatch. Fires a ball. That ball travels a distance. If that ball hits anyone, it does very minimal damage. They've increased that minimal damage by 10%. By projectile damage plus 10. Then if it does travel its full distance, it then explodes. And the explosion does not do damage. It's not a blast. It simply breaks apart into multiple shotgun-like projectiles that then basically exude from that area in a cone. So they're tightening that cone by 10%, and they're increasing that pellet damage by 10%. They say that the weapon is just lacks efficiency due to its complexity. So it's actually it's so complex to use. You don't see anyone using Arathons unless they think they are the best or they're memeing. And even then, it's going to be an even match against the most incompetent of players, because the most incompetent players are using standard shotguns who are just holding down left mouse button and facing in the general direction of the Arathon user, whereas the Arathon user has to maintain a very specific distance between the target that they're aiming at and themselves, lead their shot because it has projectile travel time, and actually manage to land that shot appropriately. But the damage is good if you can actually land that absolute sweetest of spots, but no, it's basically impossible. It's like the idea behind the Tachi and the Tempura, where they're like, we're going to side mount it on your build, and you're going to slice people in half, except no one has ever done it. I've yet to, like, the Tachi, this is, sorry, we're going off on a minor tangent, but the Tachi reaches out like 12 pins. He reaches out 12 pins, and supposedly, according to everything on the exhibition, can slice any build literally the long way bifurcating it, removing frames, generators, and everything. It can do all these things, and I've never seen not one of those builds in PvP since the freaking Tachi came out. Why? Because it's impossible, and that's basically the Arathon. It's impossible to pull that off. It doesn't. It seems like it's possible. It's not possible. Finwhale, speed nerfed in advance. Omamori nerfed again because we won't stop using it. And spoiler alert, we're still not going to stop using it. It's just less durable in every respect. It protects your guns worse, and the durability of itself is easier to strip. The Yeti, the recharge time increased from 16 to 25%. Oopsie! For some reason, you made Gaijin decided to make an invisibility module that was better than the chameleons in every single way, and then everybody dropped their shit invisibility modules and picked up the chameleon, or picked up the Yeti. Shocker! So they're nerfing the Yeti to be more similar to the chameleon. Then they said, wait a minute, don't worry, we'll give you your invisibility back as long as you take longer to decloak by a full second, doubling it, and also as long as you manually disable the module. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck like a fucking bitch using standard chameleon times. And you don't want to be a bitch, do you? You don't want to be a bitch doing using chameleon times. I will guarantee you this will not change gameplay. People are still going to use this like a standard chameleon. You know why? Because it's good enough for the chameleons, idiots. You think we're not bringing this with a goddamned hot red? No, hot red. What am I doing? Cheetah. You think we're not bringing a cheetah with this? Come on, we were doing it in the first place. We're going to continue to do that. Mandrake, buff, energy, less. Power score, less. Narwhal, nerf, energy, more. It's just too good, they say. And also, while you're strafing, it's going to have worse spread. They're like, it's extremely efficient. Yes, it does. It is extremely efficient. The Narwhal is likely, and I hate to say this, the best of the linear cannons, and it is a turreted ice weapon that is not considered a cannon. It performs similarly to the way that you would expect tsunamis to perform, but it has, how do I put this? Has more durability. The perk isn't necessarily that good, but it is actually the best of the cooling weapons. Of all the cooling weapons in the game, and then this includes the new minigun, the Narwhal actually cools the best, because you can get 70% cooling off of one shot and 100% on the next. And the Narwhal's self-referential damage buff doubling his damage. Those are all very, very good things. And so the Narwhal is extraordinarily efficient. It actually can remove frames very well if you're lucky enough to strike frame, simply because it will remove the frame's damage pass-through, and then the damage itself can be enough. It's actually a decent gun. The Narwhal did turn out to be a fairly decent gun. But regardless of that, of these nerfs, it's also in the crafting recipe of the Relic minigun. Pulsar damage nerf and perk damage nerf. So they're nerfing the Pulsar. Why? Because they gave us fused versions. No, ain't nobody touching the Pulsar forever. Then they changed it, by the way. You guys might not have known this. They gave it a damage on hit. It didn't have that. They didn't convert any of the damage over. They just increased, deadass, straight up increased the damage of the Pulsar by giving it damage on hit. Still no one used it. Then what they do, they gave us free Pulsars because they were like, yay, you can get fused Pulsars. Everybody got fused Pulsars, and now fused Pulsars are nerfed. Yokozuna. The perk now increases cabin's power by 200% instead of 30% and speed by 10% instead of 20%. The bonus to allies' power is now 50% and speed bonus for allies is now 10%. And now it's for any cabins, not just heavy. So this is a side grade. Originally, the Yokozuna, as you may know, as it says right there, gave you a massive speed increase, a 20% speed increase. And it also only really buffed only heavy cabins. And the brick meta is strong. It's not changed. This doesn't really change that. 200% power just makes it even better as a dragger than it was before. And it already competed with the cohort for best dragger simply because of its perk. Now with plus 200% power, it absolutely is the top dragger in the game. I mean, if that matters to anyone, which it might. And then in addition to that, it's now buffing all other cabins, not just heavies. It's an interesting side change, because the idea is that people weren't using the Yokozuna really to give that buff to other players. They were using that buff to give themselves the speed to run down other builds in medium and light cabins. So I guess it's kind of a nerf. Hammerfall, deadass, straight up nerf. Why? Because they gave away fused Hammerfalls. Nidhogg. Oh, and also these changes were in the patch notes, six or so patch notes ago when they initially announced the energy changes and the air quotes balance changes that were coming with it. And then they said, don't worry, guys, we're not going to apply those balance changes. We swear it. We're just going to change the energy things. Don't worry. No, they're lied. They're just doing it slow enough so that people don't bitch all at the same time. Nidhogg damage reduced by 15%. Why? Because it's too strong. It basically does more damage than the Jormungandr. Not basically, it does. Everybody was using Nidhogg's Growl, Nidhogg's Jormungandr, Nidhogg, whatever the hell. It was just too strong. 15% nerf to you. Spark 3, they realized, hey, whoopsie. We keep trying to make this thing a damage thing, just like the Flash down here, or just like the Flash. They're trying to make the Spark and the Flash a damage thing, and we never did it. It just doesn't work. It's not a damage weapon, and you know why? I'll tell the devs right now, because we can't control where it shoots. It fires a cone. It'll like target one thing to one person's build, but we can't control what part we hit. So because of that, it will never be a damage dealing weapon. It's only a support weapon, and so they're reverting those changes. Except you're still dealing the same damage, and also the fire rate is still lower. So they didn't do that. This is why they said this is a partial reversal of the changes. This is partial, but I mean, I would have preferred a faster fire rate. BC-17 Tsunami and CC-18 Typhoon. Nerf. Even though it says that it's reducing the recoil by 23%, this is not a buff. This is a nerf. The reason why this is a nerf is because of the Whaler Cabin. Period. That's it. Whaler Cabin, great. Tsunami was useful with the Whaler Cabin. Them no likey that. The end. So, let's mosey on back to over here. Originally, with 2 Tsunami, you could charge the Whaler in one shot. And now you can no longer do that. You see that little chip down there, that last little bit of green? No longer charged in one shot. And that made it so you permanently had a plus 25% projectile damage and plus 20% projectile damage and 20% projectile speed. And so they're just like, no, that's too good. Why would we do that? So they're nerfing it. Instead of nerfing the Whaler Cabin, instead of anything like that, they just are like, no. We gotta nerf this. And so they did. That's it. I mean, they just aren't happy with it working. And so they made it so that no weapon in the game now charges the Whaler instantly. High efficiency in combination with the Whaler, the perk of which charges too quickly when using these guns. Yeah, that's just bad. So minor rant, I'll try to be fast. Typhoon is currently the worst relic. Everyone knows that. It just is. It's just dog shit. It came into prevalence again when they made the penetration changes, and then the penetration changes got rolled out to every gun, and blah, blah, blah. It kind of fell off. It just is. It's not good. There's no pizzazz. There's no, this is a relic. Wow, I'm being hit by a relic right now. And you can tell when you're being hit with a relic with a Helicon. You can tell when you're being hit with a relic with Mastodons. You can tell when you're being hit with a relic even with this new Ripper gun or whatever, or even the Ripper blades. Like, you can tell when you're hit with a relic. Not with the Typhoon. You genuinely deadass can't tell. You're like, dude, did I get hit by Tsunami? Did I get hit by Typhoon? Did I get hit by any other standard cannon in the game? And it's true, because the Typhoon just doesn't bring the heat. And so this is a massive nerf, because now it no longer functions with the only cabin that the cabin was designed to function with. So I guess that's technically a Whaler nerf. But anyway, continuing forward, Breaker, nerf, for same reasons as everything else, people were using them. Basically, they're just too good at 10 energy. Yep. Jormungandr, damage increased by 33%. Reload time increased from 2 to 2.5 seconds. Heating per pellet reduced drastically from 12.5% to 5%. This is a huge nerf to the Jormungandr. They were like, look, we want this to be a standalone weapon so people will pay tons and tons and tons of money to get 3 Jormungandrs instead of running Jormungandr Nidhogg. So we nerfed the shit out of Nidhogg, and then we're nerfing the shit out of the Jormungandr. For those of us who didn't know, they used to give 100% heating to parts because of 12.5, and it fired 8 of these. So it basically gave 100% to one part. So it meant that you could run in and cabin someone's ass out immediately at the start of the match. Crazy strong. This is a huge nerf. 5% per bullet. That's less than half. You're looking at like 40 something percent. You're looking at 40 exactly percent heating instead of 100. So now you need 2 Nidhoggs to achieve 80% heat, 3 Nidhoggs to achieve 100% heat on your first shot. Terrible nerf. Continuing forward, I already covered the flash changes. Armored aircraft modes improved for those maps. Interface crafting looks different, by the way. All the workbenches look different. All these things look crazy different. And part production time is reduced for each of the rarities. So now you don't have to wait 15 minutes, but 5 for rare. This is a great change, great change, great change, great change, and great change. So basically, part production faster, yes, though The issue there being resource gain has not been improved. Free workbench coupons still work the same. A number of changes were made in other windows. You can now add a recipe for any parts to favorites, which is kind of cool. Let's see here. Anything else? Updated the design of the Ravager faction? Interesting. Oh yeah, miscellaneous. Updated the visual effects of energy shields, Aegises, all the barriers now look like they're barrier-esque. They don't look like smooth shields anymore. I don't know how I feel about that. I kind of like those smooth shields, but that now these shields are far more visible. So normally, if you're in a brighter map and someone puts on a shield, or even if you put on your own shield, you might not even see your Aegis or anything pop up. Now you will absolutely see it. Optimize the effect of refrigerant puddles and exploding refrigerant projectiles, so it just looks better. Let's see. Fixed a bug where vehicles being heavily illuminated when using the neutrino scope. What? What the fuck? Hold on. We're gonna go do this ourselves. Oh my god, no. So, the point of the neutrino, I should have noticed this before, is that you were supposed to be able to see your opponents they stood out a lot. So I think this effect has been reduced. Like Rigel Cliffwalker over there, you can't really see him that well as you could before. They used to glow bright. Apparently they nerfed the neutrino in addition to everything else. Fixed a bug with a music track. Fixed a bug. That wasn't a bug. Fuck you. That has been in the game since the start. Anyway, fixed a bug. I'm talking about the neutrino changes. Let's see. Fixed a bug with the vulture drone explosion damage to not increase from cabin perks. Okay. So that's good to know. So basically, the vulture is the worst drone in the game. They buffed it ever so slightly just now. It's the one that where it lands, has to fly over, collide with your opponent, and drill into your opponent. The explosion at the end apparently was not being increased by cabin perks like the Catalina. Wow. Fixed above the caused the Catalina's perk to accumulate when the mortar projectile passed through allied and armored car wrecks. Fair enough. Fixed a bug that caused the Catalina's perk to accumulate when its own drones got destroyed. What the fuck? Synchronized Yangwang grenade launcher animation with its reloading sound. The Yeti invisibility module added to the list of parts that can be used when containing the backstab patch. That's actually good because the idea is you're supposed to this is actually not a buffer nerf. This is a bug. I mean, you're supposed to get credit when you decloak and then kill someone within a fight, 3 seconds. Fix the location of environment objectives on the fortress map. Fix the Jawbreaker cabin paint mask. That's good. Improve the suspension of the small wheel. Wow. I actually don't even know what that means. I guess it was just dog shit for a while. Battle search is now automatically canceled after accepting or sending an invitation for a group. Good. Fixed a bug that caused vehicles that use hovers to not be destroyed when falling down on Air Harbor map. I actually never experienced that. Fixed above that caused the Bigfoot and CR2 petrol perks to not work properly. Oh, god damn it. So, one of the things was everyone was trying to tell me, yo, Cardboard Ninja, jerk, blah, 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 blah. It doesn't give as much as it's supposed to. So, let's see how much it gives now. I'm supposed to activate shield, and now you can see the new nifty shield look. Activate cloak, and so now... Oh, wow. Is that a buff? Wait a minute. Hold on. Wait a minute. Hold up. Wait a minute. That's a buff. That's a huge buff. Let's just activate these things so that they're on cooldown. So the Bigfoot reduces the distance I have to travel to activate the cheetah. And so that's actually working as intended now. So one of the things is commentators wanted to mention that it was supposed to reduce the distance that you have to travel by 50%, but it used to always say 50%, but in actuality it was only doing like 35%. This is actually a huge buff. They've actually made it 50%, it looks like. Holy shit. Happy days. Bigfoot's got mega buffed. I mean, nobody will probably notice that because they don't read, but holy shit. That is a massive, massive, massive buff to the Bigfoot. Petrol, you might be wondering, well, what's the Petrol? Petrol has the same perk, if I recall correctly. Let me check. Yeah. Distance required for bonus activation. It's exactly the same. And apparently, it was bugged. Everyone said it was bugged. I never made a video on it, but yeah, no. It was bugged, now it's fixed. Fixed a bug when approaching certain walls on the clean island and improved the number of in-game textures. So, well, how do we summarize all of this? Well, it's a new patch. It's a lot of stuff. Impulsiveness Brawl is going to be cool. New Relic, only for the rich. That works very similarly to the Kaiju. Nerf to the armor slab. Stop mounting it forwards. Let's see here. Most of these things are just side grades or whatever. It doesn't really matter. And yeah, buff to the Bigfoot wheels. Also nerf to the Bigfoot wheels and nerf to combination of wheels. Huge changes. Yada, yada, yada. Sorry for getting this out so late, but I did want to get the video out eventually. And sorry for taking up basically 40 minutes of your time. But if you've stayed this far, drop a like and a subscribe because you obviously like hearing my voice. If you have not made it this far, then I can say whatever I want. You'll never effing know. But I will see you guys next time. Thank you. Thank you very much for watching my videos. Peace. See you in the wasteland. See you in big black scorpions. Peace.